Visiting a haunted place at night. What I found will haunt me forever, asterisk. It was a cold, moonless night when I decided to take the dare. I had heard rumors about an abandoned house just outside town. The locals always spoke of it in hushed whispers, warning anyone who asked about it to stay far away. They said it was haunted, that strange things happened around that house, and that no one who ventured inside ever came back the same. But I was always one to challenge my fear. I didn't believe in ghosts, spirits, or anything supernatural. To me, they were just stories meant to scare children. So, on that dark night, my curiosity got the best of me, and I made the decision to visit the house alone. I arrived at the house around midnight, my flashlight cutting through the thick fog that seemed to cling to the air. The house stood like a silent sentinel, its broken windows staring back at me. As I stepped onto the creaky porch, I felt a chill in the air, but I shrugged it off. This was just an old house. Nothing more. I entered through the front door, which hung slightly ajar. The inside was even worse than I expected. The air was stale, filled with the smell of mold and decay. My flashlight flickered as I walked through the house, casting long shadows on the walls. I could hear the sound of my own footsteps echoing off the empty walls. But then, something changed. I felt watched. My breath caught in my throat as I heard what sounded like footsteps following mine. I turned around, but the house was still empty. I dismissed it as my imagination running wild. I tried to keep my composure, but every corner I turned, I felt a presence. I decided to go upstairs. The stairs creaked under my weight as I ascended slowly. At the top of the stairs, there was a long hallway with doors on either side. One door at the end of the hallway was slightly open. A dim light flickered from inside, and against my better judgment, I walked toward it. As I pushed the door open, I froze. Inside was a room filled with old furniture, but it wasn't the furniture that caught my attention. It was the mirror. At first, I didn't notice anything wrong with it, but then I saw it. Reflected in the mirror was a figure standing behind me. I spun around, but there was no one there. My heart was pounding in my chest as I backed away from the mirror, the cold sweat beating on my forehead. I couldn't explain it. The figure had been clear as day in the reflection, but there was no one else in the room. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind me, trapping me inside. Panic set in as I banged on the door, screaming for it to open, but no sound came. My flashlight died, leaving me in total darkness. I heard a soft whisper, a voice I didn't recognize, right in my ear. "Leave now." I ran. I didn't care if I tripped, if I fell. I just had to get out of there. My heart was racing as I dashed down the stairs and out of the house. But when I reached the front yard, I looked back. The light in the upstairs window flickered, then went out completely. I didn't go back. I don't know if it was just my imagination or something more sinister, but I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever was in that house was still watching me. And to this day, I never went near that house again. Every time I pass by, I swear I can still see a shadow in the window. The end story. My friend's laugh that came from the grave, asterisk. This incident happened to me about 5 years ago, and to this day, whenever I think about it, my body shivers. My friend Sal and I have been very close since childhood. We used to spend nights at each other's houses and always watch horror movies together. One night, we decided to try something new. We'd visit an old, abandoned cemetery that was about a mile away from our neighborhood. This cemetery was always out of sight, hidden from most people's attention. Locals often warned us about it, telling us that it was an eerie and dangerous place, and that anyone who went there experienced strange things. But both Sal and I had always enjoyed challenging our fears. We didn't believe in supernatural stuff. So, on that dark night, we decided to go, with only our flashlights to guide us. It was late, and the moonlight was dim and veiled in fog. We reached the cemetery and quietly stepped inside. At first, everything seemed normal. No sounds, no movement, just a gentle breeze rustling through the old graves. But then we heard something that didn't make sense at first. It was laughter. It sounded like Sal's laugh, but was far away. I quickly turned around to look at him, but he was nowhere to be seen. My eyes searched the cemetery, and then I spotted him, walking toward a dilapidated mausoleum at the far end of the cemetery. I called out his name, but there was no response. I started running after him, and then I heard it again, the same laugh, but this time it wasn't coming from Sahil. It was much closer, and it sounded like someone was right behind me. It wasn't just a human laugh. It was eerie, unnatural, like something otherworldly. I kept chasing him until I reached the mausoleum. When I finally caught up, I found him standing still in front of the grave, his face blank, his eyes wide open but empty. His body was rigid, almost like he wasn't in control. His laughter came again, but this time it wasn't his. It sounded as though it was coming from a deep, hollow place, a sound that didn't belong to a living person. I froze in fear. I shook him, trying to wake him up, but he didn't respond. His body was there, but it felt like his soul was missing. The laughter kept echoing in my ears, getting louder and louder. It wasn't just Sahil anymore. It felt like something had possessed him. It was as if the grave itself was laughing at me. Panicking, I grabbed Sahil and ran out of the cemetery as fast as I could. My flashlight flickered and then went out. I didn't stop running until I was safely at home, but the laughter, the sound of it, kept ringing in my head. The next day, I tried calling Sahil, but he wouldn't pick up. After several attempts, his parents informed me that he had gone missing. They said he had disappeared after he left his house the night before. To this day, no one knows where Sahil went. His disappearance remains a mystery. And that cemetery? I never went back. The sounds, the laughter, Sahil's vacant eyes. Those images are burned into my mind forever. And whenever I pass by that cemetery now, I can't shake the feeling that something else is waiting there, something that follows you. The end story. The Abandoned Asylum. A night I'll never forget. Asterisk. This happened to me a couple of years ago. I was hanging out with my friends, and we were always looking for something thrilling to do. We had heard rumors about an old, abandoned asylum on the outskirts of our town. People said it was haunted, that strange noises echoed through the walls at night, and some even claimed they'd seen figures staring out from the broken windows. Naturally, this sparked our curiosity. It was a cold, moonless night when we decided to check it out. There were 4 of us, me, my friend Alex, Sarah, and Mark. We parked our car a few hundred feet away from the asylum, and the moment we stepped out, the atmosphere felt wrong. The air was heavy, almost suffocating, and the only sound was the crunch of our footsteps on the gravel. The building itself was enormous, an old, crumbling structure covered in ivy, with broken windows and a rotting door that hung on its hinges. We approached cautiously, our flashlights cutting through the darkness. The wind howled, and for a moment, I thought I heard a voice, faint and distant, but I brushed it off as the wind playing tricks. We walked the front door, which creaked loudly as it swung open. Inside, the air was thick with dust, and the floors creaked with every step we took. The place had an oppressive silence, like it had been abandoned for decades. The walls were covered in peeling paint, and graffiti marked almost every surface. As we ventured deeper into the asylum, the oppressive feeling grew stronger. It felt like something was watching us, though every time I turned around, I saw nothing but empty hallways. At one point, we found ourselves in what looked like an old common room. There were rusted metal chairs and broken furniture scattered around. In the center, there was a large, cracked mirror hanging on the wall. We were all standing near it when we heard it, a low, guttural laugh. It was faint at first, but then it grew louder, closer, as though someone was standing right behind us. We all froze. I turned to look at Sarah, but she was staring at the mirror. Her face was pale, and her mouth was barely moving as she whispered, "Did you see that?" I turned toward the mirror, but I didn't see anything. I felt a chill run down my spine, but I convinced myself it was just our nerves getting to us. That's when Mark stepped forward, laughing nervously, trying to break the tension. "It's just an old building, guys. Nothing here but dust and broken glass." But before he could finish, the mirror cracked, shattering into 1,000 pieces. We all jumped back, and in the reflection of the broken shards, we saw something that made our heart stop. A shadowy figure, tall and gaunt, standing in the doorway behind us. We spun around, but there was nothing there. The hallway behind us was empty. The laughter came again, louder this time, as if it was mocking us. We could hear the sound of footsteps now, heavy and deliberate, echoing down the hall. Alex's face went white. We need to get out of here. Now. We didn't need to be told twice. We turned and ran. But as we rushed down the hallway, it felt like the doors were closing in on us. Every corner seemed longer, the air thicker. We finally reached the front door, but it wouldn't budge. It was like something was holding it shut from the other side. Panic set in. My heart was pounding in my chest, and the sound of footsteps was getting closer. It felt like we were trapped, surrounded by something we couldn't see, but we could feel it closing in. With one last desperate push, we managed to get the door open. We burst out into the cold night air and didn't stop running until we were back at the car. We didn't even look back. We didn't talk much after that night, but every one of us knew what we heard, what we'd felt. It was something beyond explanation. That asylum was more than just a building. It felt like something was still there, watching, waiting for the next group of curious souls to wander in. I never went back, and I never will. The end story. The abandoned asylum. The haunted hotel. One night I wish I could forget. Asterisk. This happened last year, and it still haunts me to this day. My friends and I were always looking for adventures, and when we heard about an old, supposedly haunted hotel on the outskirts of town, we couldn't resist. The hotel was abandoned for years, and locals swore it was cursed. They said the last owners had mysteriously disappeared, and strange noises were heard in the building late at night. But, being the thrill-seekers we were, we decided to check it out ourselves. It was a chilly autumn evening when we arrived. The hotel stood alone at the end of a long, winding road, surrounded by dense woods. The building was huge, with cracked windows, broken shutters, and a rusted sign that barely hung from its frame. As we approached, the air felt colder, heavier, almost as if the place itself was breathing. We were three, me, Jake, and Mia. We parked the car and made our way toward the hotel, our flashlights barely cutting through the thick darkness. The front door creaked open easily, and we stepped inside. The smell hit us immediately, dust, mold, and something else, something stale. The hotel lobby was vast, but everything was covered in a thick layer of grime. There were old portraits hanging crookedly on the walls, and furniture lay overturned or rotting in the corners. We explored for a while, laughing nervously, tried to shake off the creeping feeling of being watched. It wasn't until we reached the second floor that things started to feel wrong. The hallway was narrow, with a long row of closed doors. The lights flickered on and off, casting strange shadows on the peeling wallpaper. As we walked down the hallway, we heard the unmistakable sound of footsteps behind us, slow, deliberate, as if someone was following us. We turned around quickly, but no one was there. We laughed it off, blaming it on the building settling, but the hairs on the back of my neck were standing up. We found a door at the end of the hall that was slightly ajar. Mia, who was always the bravest of us, pushed it open. Inside was a large, dusty room with a grand chandelier hanging from the ceiling. In the center of the room was an old four-poster bed covered in a torn sheet. There was something about that bed that didn't sit right with me. It looked too untouched, like someone had just walked out of the room. As I stood there, trying to shake off the uneasy feeling, I heard a faint whisper, like a soft voice calling my name. Ryan. I turned around quickly, but no one was there. My heart began to race. Did you hear that? I asked, but Mia and Jake just stared at me, confused. That's when the door slammed shut behind us, trapping us inside. Panic set in. We rushed to the door, but it wouldn't open. No matter how hard we pushed or pulled, it was stuck. Suddenly, the lights went out, and we were plunged in complete darkness. I could hear Mia's breath quicken, and I could feel Jake's hand on my arm, trembling. The whispering started again, this time louder, more urgent. I could hear it clearly now, like it was in the room with us. Get out! Get out! Just as I started to scream, the lights flickered back on, and when they did, we saw it. Standing at the foot of the bed was a figure. It was tall, thin, and dressed in old, tattered clothes. Its face was pale, its eyes dark, and its mouth stretched into a twisted grin. It didn't move, but its presence radiated fear, as if it was feeding off our terror. We backed up toward the door, desperate to get out, but it wouldn't open. The figure slowly started moving toward us. It stepped silent on the creaky floor. And that's when we heard the voice again, but this time it was louder, more demanding. Asterisk leave, now asterisk. The door finally gave way with a loud crash, and we bolted out of the room, down the hallway, and straight out of the building. We didn't stop running until we were back at the car. As we drove away, I looked back at the hotel one last time. The lights in the windows flickered, and for a split second, I thought I saw the figure standing in the window, watching us leave. None of us spoke much on the way home. We were too shaken. We all agreed we'd never go near that hotel again, but something in the back of my mind tells me that whatever was inside that building is still there, waiting for the next group of curious souls to wander in. The end story.